So this is Trump's social media guy. And I was like, we've already seen two policymakers. And for those of you who don't have your head in the sand, you know, Trump delegates his authority. I was like, oh, okay, so this is a social media guy. So what authority has he been delegated? What little secrets does he know? So he goes into the first part. We're just going to do the Save America Act spiel.
Party. I had the frustration all the time as well. I'm frustrated right now. I'm sitting here on this podcast while the Senate refuses to pass the Save America Act.
Exactly.
So I'm watching him, and I was like, he's really tight. This is an hour and 6 minutes into this interview, by the way. I'm sure he didn't just drag him into this little room or the backyard shed as soon as he came in. They had a little bit of a rapport, which adds more time to this 1 hour and 6 minutes. And I was like, you're still tight, and you're still moving like a pendulum. And for those of you who've been paying attention, a pendulum is extreme stress, like the extreme stress, like fight or flight mode. I was like, at this point, you think you'd relax just a little bit. And in the sense that most people, especially when you're in, high business ventures, politics of that nature, it's like you mentally can compartmentalize the no-go zones, and that's where your stress will come out. But to be that way the entire time, to me, it's indicative of deception throughout the entire interview. So let's just watch it.
That would enforce voter ID. But
That's not hard. Why can't they do that?
Well, maybe they don't want to save our country. So maybe they don't want to save our country, but we're...
No, he just throws it out there. You got the eyebrows that go with it that throw it first, which is kind of odd. But he does have some big eyebrows. So they just throw it out. The shoulders go with that, and the head movement goes with that as well. It just throws it out. Maybe they don't want to. He knows. That's why he just threw it out. He's throwing out an excuse to you. Chew on that, accept that excuse. Do not ask for more. It's kind of like asking the guy that's in charge of the SEALs, well, why aren't they doing their tricks? I don't know, maybe they don't want to do their tricks. You know exactly why they don't want to do their tricks. You didn't bring a ton of fish with you to treat them after tricks. He threw out, I don't know, maybe they don't want to save the country. Because it satisfies you. It's the talking narrative that everyone has jumped aboard with that they will instantly, emotionally accept as the excuse. Oh, I will emotionally accept that one because it's been driven into me to accept that excuse. I'm about to step on a soapbox, but some of you really need to hear this. This guy right here with that manipulation tactic, this is manipulation tactics for the herd, for the dummies, for the morons, for people who have cognitive dissonance, no matter how smart they are in other areas, because it works. See, the reason why most of my viewers can look at this and go, ugh, yeah, ew. You don't have cognitive dissonance. These kind of tactics don't work on you. That's why you smell a rotten fish. And you can obviously tell by the clues dropped that he didn't bring his bucket of fish for the SEALs. That's why there's no Save America Act. But these tactics work on the herd, which is why it's so off-putting to you because you're not the herd. It works for stupid people.
Doing the best
Wait, can I just ask you a question? Why? That's such an easy one.
Yeah.
That's a priority that I strongly share with the administration. That's a priority that I strongly share.
Yeah.
That's a priority.
We're doing the best
Wait, can I just ask you a question? Why? That's such an easy one.
Yeah.
I like that little look. I stopped it right on there. That's such an easy one about the Save America Act. The eyes narrowed in. Focus now on the words that are coming out of his mouth. That's such an easy one. Ooh, what's he going to say that I now have to jump through hoops for? What is the other emotional narrative that I can feed to him that will get the audience back to my side of thinking? Because he's just disarmed it with, that's actually just a really easy one, haven't you? Why haven't you done? And then he's waiting for the XYZ.
That's a priority that I strongly share with the administration. Like, why not have voter ID if you're going to be a country who chooses its leaders through elections? Like,
right. I think this might be the most common sense piece of legislation that's ever come through the Senate, but for whatever reason, there's obstruction to it.
But who's obstructing it?
So whatever reason, there's obstruction to it, and you get the believe me look. We don't really have a full face on thing, but it looks like from this angle that he does understand. I don't want to say that there is a person, because in these situations, it's never like person A obstructed blah, blah, blah. That's not how it works. Let's not be ridiculous. But he can see the obstruction.
Do you know?
Well, we have a leader in the Senate who just can't get the job done. And maybe he can get it done, but he hasn't shown that he can get it.
And then you get more and more, believe me, look. So it's the leader in the Senate. That's the reason. He's the guy. He did it. It's always that one person. You know, it's funny. Everyone can say deep state and deep state. Holy cow. I'm hungry, apparently. Everyone can say deep state. And immediately all your thoughts go to a group. But then you've got this guy who is manipulating the herd. He can narrow it to one person, and you follow him into hell for that. Be like, yeah, it's one person. It's just one guy. What happened to the deep state? I don't know, but it's one guy now. And you've been led astray again.
It done, and he hasn't really made it a priority. I think this is a major priority for Republican voters. It's a major priority of President Trump, who is the only reason that we have a Republican-controlled Senate and we have a Republican-controlled Congress. And I think oftentimes Republicans forget that, and in Congress they forget that. The only reason the Republicans have any power in Washington, D.C. is because of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And time again, Congress drops the ball. And so I hear your frustration.
That's it.
Okay, well, that seems like it's really silly. Isn't that weird how that goes? His body actually was singing with him. He's sitting there talking. The face is giving the appropriate things to what's going on. We have a Republican controlled blah, 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 Republican controlled blah, blah, blah. Everything's controlled by Republicans, blah, 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 blah. And then he kind of like pauses. The body kind of stops. But I think they forget about that. How many of you forgot on your high school teams or the company you work for that you are working with a group of people to make money or to win? How many of you forget that? About the only time that happens is when they stop paying your ass at work or your coach didn't show up for the team game. And I mean every coach. Again, another manipulative narrative speak. But remember, my body language experts, it's not for you. These are words for the herd.
You vote for Republicans, they can't even get a voter ID law passed.
That's why the primaries are so important. And we're working in the primaries. We took out Tillis, we took out Cornyn, we took out Cassidy. We're taking out some of the weakest Republicans on our team. And so the primaries process is where I believe that people like you should be taking out your anger. I just think you've gotten behind some of the wrong candidates. I think like James Fishback, by the way, that guy tried to scam me.
All right, now this is where we get into some kind of meat here as far as who's running things, who's picking these awful candidates. That guy tried to scam me. Like me? Well, I don't care, but I mean, kind of, because we're like peaking. But you better have a really good story for this scam, right?
Fishback hit me up asking me for $50,000 into an investment fund before he was LARPing as a presidential or governor candidate.
You know, like Fish.
He asked you for $50,000 for an investment fund. No real narrative of how, what was it a scam? Did law enforcement come? Has he been arrested? I mean, are there other victims of this $50,000 scam? And what do you see with that? A lot of believe me look and an emotional uptick in the way he's speaking, drawing you in. He tried to scam me. And what does Tucker do? I know you guys always ask me about about the interviewer. He's uncomfortable. One, if you've been watching this interview and you already watched it, throughout this whole thing, he has been emotionally coddling this individual to not offend him to where he walks out. He's praised him in areas that just don't make any sense. He's avoided like pushing back on some subjects and kind of let him just spiel. And this is going to be one of them. Tucker obviously liked Fishburne, so he adjusts himself in the chair.
But I like him, but I don't know that much about.
He won't look at him as he says it. I like him, but I don't know that much about him. Will not make direct eye contact. He's literally bowing down, becoming subordinate to the other person. Not that his mind is there, mind you. This is a tactic.
About him, I just don't think that the state of Florida.
So you see the other guy over here. He's giving really good eye contact. So in his mind, Tucker's avoiding him. He feels like he's got the upper hand, but he's just having a hard time pushing back on the words that are coming out of Tucker's mouth.
Florida, should be limiting the First Amendment, the God-given First Amendment rights of Floridians because Israel demands it, which is exactly what they did. That's not.
I hear you on that. But at the same time, he sits there and gives that freaking therapy words that usually work on the herd. But Tucker's not part of the herd. Tucker pushes back. Now he's giving direct eye contact. Oh, that's our boy Tucker. That's what we want to see. No, we don't. Tucker's our interviewer. We need him to be our strong interviewer. I like it when he plays dumb. He gets more information that way. Although in this one, I am kind of glad he kind of pushed back. It's got to be a good mix. But anyways, he squeezes his eyes in. Not Tucker, the social media expert. He doesn't like that pushback. And these are the kind of tells that Tucker's seeing, which is mitigating his response to the guy. He's like, how far can I push back? Ooh, it's starting to increase in tells that tell me that he's getting mad at me and I might lose this interview.
Acceptable under any certain. My family's been here for like 400 years. Like, I'm not going to stand by and let that happen without saying something about it, period.
I hear you. I hear you on that. There was probably a different candidate you could have got behind than Fishback, because that guy's bad news and he's not an honest person.
I don't know.
That guy is bad news and he's not an honest person. So we're looking at this from all his perspective. It's just him. So it sounds like the way he's talking and the words that he's using with the me is he's picking who the runners are for the Republican Party in all these primaries. Maybe not every one of them, but definitely if he sees somebody he doesn't like, they're gone. And these are the kind of people that are running the Trump administration. Why does it seem like a giant mess and there are idiots running it? They're not idiots. They're just plain idiots because the herd responds to the idiocy in the way that they want to. They can use the emotional idiot words on the herd. It works. It doesn't work on you because you're not an idiot. Definitely works on the herd. And there's nothing you or I at this point can do about it until the herd gets burned enough to where they avoid going into the idiot gate. And the herd, as I've said many times before, is very slow to change direction.
And I think you have a massive platform. When you put your platform to use, you helped take out Dan Crenshaw. So I thank you for that. And President Trump didn't endorse Dan Crenshaw. So we've used this primary.
He didn't endorse that creepy fat guy from Florida who endorsed genocide, who laughed at a picture of a dead child in Gaza. That disgusting. I can't even remember his name, but he was
the only candidate that ran in that seat.
Why not get someone new? Like, why would you endorse that guy? That's why I said you've got to be a slave to.
So unfortunately, it's a lot of back and forth, so we don't see a whole visual on our social media expert. What we did see in the little bit of cuts that were coming through was the believe me look. And Tucker at this point is giving him a whole lot of pushback. Why not get someone else new? Well, then he switches the verbs to it's your fault. You didn't bring anyone else up. And just so I can give you an inoculation shot for these kind of words coming out of his mouth that, it's Tucker's fault for not bringing anyone else. Trump's daughter-in-law runs the RNC. It literally is their job to find people for these roles. But it's your fault. May the Lord bless you and keep you. In Jesus' name.